Hi everyone, I hope you can see my screen. If you can you give me an indication? Super. Hello, my name is Abidin and I primarily study influencer cultures. So in today's short spiel, I want to cover what internet celebrities and influencers in Singapore have been doing with respect to COVID-19. Specifically, I want to focus on looking at the bottom, influencers as opposed to celebrities, because for them, this is a native space being on the internet, and therefore if there are pivots between social media practices, it's easier to assess here. I'm also focusing specifically on Instagram, even though my research and fieldwork has been spanning across different social media, and I want to acknowledge that I'm here basically ignoring that whole boom on TikTok, as well as a lot of live streaming platforms. So here, focusing on Instagram allows me to talk more about the aesthetics and the templatability of practices there. And then on Instagram, I'm specifically looking at stories as opposed to IGTV and posts, because the shareability and the transience is also different. So Sean has asked us to reflect on a few things, and I've grouped his keywords in his brief under actions, reactions, and intentions. Do my participants do these things? Do they not? Do they challenge them? Do they resist them? To be honest, with the corpus of data I have, my answer to all of this is yes and no. I could say yes to all of these things. I could say no to all of these things, depending on how I want to select my evidence. So instead of doing that, I'm going to talk you through what is happening on the ground. And then at the end, I want to offer some industry shifts in this area. But first, for those of us who may not be familiar with the Singapore context, here are 3 things to keep in mind. Structurally, this is a country where IT knowledge is very tacit and surveillance culture is normative. So something like public shaming culture online is not a novelty, it's a daily practice and routine for many Singaporeans. So relatedly, as part of the culture, a lot of the mainstream media's coverage on celebrity or scandals tends to be very didactic in nature and meant to educate or promote some sort of morality. And last but not least, even though it's a very small country, it's super dense. So all at once, you feel very much surveyed. People can take pictures of you and upload them on social media, but at the same time, it's easy to feel slightly anonymous and anomic moving through such a big space. So I want to briefly cover 5 different phenomena that have emerged from influencers on Instagram stories during this period. The first is the rise of live chats. This primarily being used for parasociality. For some, in the first case here, they're just your regular influencers doing AMAs and Q&As, not much reflecting on COVID at all. For the second one, there is a pivot to talk about how these individuals are focused and coping through the pandemic. But in the third, these are different types of internet celebrities and influencers who are entirely focusing their online efforts towards fixing the problems as a result of the pandemic. The second phenomenon is fan communion that breeds collective effervescence. And different meme factories and influencers who are very prominent in this space have set up things like online group singing sessions, karaoke style, all the way to live streaming intensity workouts that people can follow along, or even some brands that work with celebrities and influencers to broadcast stay-at-home concerts so that people are less likely to be tempted to leave their enclosures. The third type of content, because these are influencers after all needing to maintain some sort of income, is branded content. And here the point of tension is on topical coherence. So for some influencers who have managed to collect or manage to network and get resources for, say, the highly desired hand sanitizers, for example, that Eric Boy, a very prominent drag influencer on Instagram, when he started selling this stock that he had imported online, his fans appreciated him and they were clamoring to get more stock. So it felt like even though he was engaging in commerce, there was some sort of fan service. For Xiao Ming, who is a meme icon in a meme factory, he has this video where he talks in local dialect in a crass manner to engage the middle to older generations to also keep to safe distancing methods. But other people in his meme factory team also tag in brands that can do home deliveries, for instance. Still, other brands struggle a little bit with that topical coherence in trying to appeal to empathy, such as Mattel, an alcohol brand. So if you miss partying, everyone order Mattel to your home and then have an online Zoom party. Not so much of a charitable aspect there, so not much in terms of resonance with followers wanting to chime in. The fourth one, persuasions. Now, we often think of influencers as just advertising machines here to broadcast information and push you to sell. But I find this really parochial and really narrow. In my larger work, I think of these influencers as networks of opinion shapers or amplifiers of content. And here they normalize specific practices to do with COVID, be it staying at home, fundraising through entertainment and drag, or podcasts where they talk about their own mental health issues and struggles from staying at home. Last but not least, most of the pivots that have been very encouraging are straight to charity. Influencer Pretty Please, for example, raising $100,000 for migrant workers who were in really unsanitary conditions. Her initiative really springboarded and pushed the state and news outlets to give more attention to these populations. Likewise, a few generations before her, Muna Hirzi official used to often make parody videos to raise awareness around foreign domestic workers and construction workers' rights. They disbanded in 2016, but came back together for an online live unity concert in order to fundraise during the Ramadan period to ensure that the foreign workers had good supplies for breaking fast. And last but not least, other influencers straight off the bat collecting donations and supplies for those who need it the most. So what is happening here are three things. In terms of parasociality, the overall systemic shift in the industry is that relatability is now a lot more important, whereas aspiration, the desire to role model and practice what these influencers are doing, has really dropped. If you're trying to sell me a branded handbag here, I would have completely tuned out and lost interest during this time. With aesthetics, we see that discursive content, meaty content for people to digest and think about has become very important, leading to the rise of live conversations and podcasts. And the visual theatrics of filters and looking really perfect and pretty on Instagram is just less important. And lastly, with accessibility, because more people are now stuck at home and have the time and ability to explore platforms, there is definitely a demotic diversity in the types of influencers we see. And in response, the embodiment, the increasing thresholds of needing to be perfect, pretty, skinny, beautiful in order to be an influencer, that's becoming less important. So before I hand off to my next panelist, I think something I would like us to think about is what is so Asian, what is the celebrity aspect, and what is it about the pandemic? I think we're looking at Asian celebrities here. We are of course dealing with a macro, large-scale anti-Asian racism. But within our specific country markets, there's obviously cultural and class diversity in a racial mixing situation, and some races experience exceptionalism. With celebrity, we're here looking at attention flows, amplification, but especially online, brand jacking. How are you going to wrestle attention from someone else to spread your message in the age of digitalization? Finally, with the pandemic, I think we're all framing it in different types of frameworks. Something very personal like mental health, all the way to something very political like workers' rights. And there are micro, meso, and macro, but all equally important. So that's it from me. It's been very quick. I speak very quickly, and I will now save you the trouble of having to listen to me anymore.
That was wonderful. Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, Crystal. Such a beautiful, powerful presentation. I do appreciate it.